Alright, hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Casey, and today's reading is going to be all about what are you passionate about. And I really wanted to do this because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that, when people ask you, like, what are you passionate about? What do you want to pursue in life? What do you think your purpose is? A lot of people are like, well, I don't really know. And what I want you to know is your purpose or your passions don't have to be this big, gigantic thing like, I want to go overseas and help people. And it could be something as simple as, I really love video game design and I want to design video games. And the thing about your passions is it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you follow as a job. It's my personal belief that it will make you enjoy your career a lot better, it will make you enjoy life a lot better. But not everybody is able to do that because of circumstances, one circumstance or another. But I think at the very least it's important for you to know what your passion is, because if you let your passion be kind of your compass through life and you let yourself follow that, you let yourself do that, even if it's just on the weekends, I think it can really, really substantially improve your quality of life and improve your lust for life. And so that's what I'm trying to do with this reading, is help you figure out what are you passionate about. So today I have 3 different readings for you to choose from. We have pile 1 with the rose quartz, pile 2 with the crazy lace agate, and pile 3 with the snowflake obsidian. So go ahead and pause, figure out which reading you feel most drawn to. I'll leave timestamps down in the description box below so you can quickly jump to whichever reading that you want to listen to. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, pile 1. If you chose the rose quartz, then this is the reading for you. And I was sitting here for the longest time trying to understand, what is this reading talking about? Like, I just couldn't get it. And then I felt very drawn to read from the guidebook about what it means to be the hyena. And the hyena card talks about like using wit, using sarcasm, telling jokes, being the fun one to be around, but also having this sense of like coming from a hard background, or like when I look at this hyena, I'm imagining like, hyenas laugh, but they have to be very ruthless in order to survive. And even though they're predators, it almost feels like they're at the bottom of the food chain. And what I mean by that is, for somebody who's aligned with the hyena card, I get the sense that they came from a very rough background and they have a lot of scars to show for it. But even though they came from a harsh background, whether it was poverty or abuse or neglect, they came out of that and they learned not only how to survive and scrape by with nothing, but eventually how they could prosper. And the energy that I get from you is something that you could be extremely passionate about, is connecting to kids who are going through what you went through and helping them get on a better path. And it took me a long time to figure that out. I was like, what are these cards even talking about here? But let me get into it. And 1 second, because I was eating gummy snacks while I was reading your cards, and there's like one stuck to the roof of my mouth. It's really uncomfortable. Okay, anyways. So the way that I'm doing this is, usually I have very planned out spreads where I have specific meanings for all the cards, but for this one I just kind of wanted Spirit to take the reins and get out the cards and then I tell the story. And what I'm seeing here with Intuition and 3 of Pentacles, I don't know if this is going to be something you do for a career, and I don't even know if it's something that you will actively plan on doing, but it will be something that happens to you. Like, you just happen upon it. Maybe you happen to be in an area and there are these kids hanging around and you just get this intuitive pull and it literally feels magnetic, where like suddenly you zone in on one and a piece of your heart knows that that kid is just like you. And if you have this feeling that if you don't get involved and if you don't take them under your wing, they might go down the wrong path, the path that you almost went down. And I feel like it was very hard for you to come out of the background that you came out of and come out on top and be able to live like a solid, stable life. Even if, you don't have everything. It doesn't mean you're living in a mansion, but you're able to live in a safer neighborhood maybe. Or you're able to undo certain traumatic cycles that you were in, or generational trauma. You were able to undo those. And I feel like this is going to be something that quite literally falls into your lap. Like, for some of you, maybe this is something that you pursue. It's something that you're passionate about, so you go into like, I don't know, like pediatric care or something, so you can work with kids, or maybe you're a daycare worker or maybe a school teacher or an after school caregiver, and you're drawn to that because you know that you want to help. But I also get the sense that for some of you, this is something that quite literally falls into your lap. Like you just happen to be, I don't know, at the bank, and there's a kid outside, and you just, with the intuition card, I really get this sense, like, it almost feels like there's this magnetic energy pulling on my chest, like right on my sternum, like something is dragging me. Like, that's what I think it's gonna feel like to you, is all of a sudden you get this overwhelming urge of like, I need to help that child, I need to talk to them, I need to show them that there is a different direction that you can go in life, other than what people tell you you can do because of where you came from, or other than what people expect from you because of where you came from. And with the hyena card, I feel like when I look at the hyena, I'm looking at their ears and I'm imagining a bunch of like bite marks on their ears. I'm imagining there's a bunch of hair missing on their fur, like they have scars and stuff like that. And so I feel like even if it's not physical, you definitely have the battle scars. And also the fact that the hyena card says it's sarcastic, it's witty, it's funny. I feel like you'll know how to connect to these kids to not scare them away, where you're like, I don't know, if there's certain phrases where you came from, like, I don't know, like you can just connect to them and they feel safe and comfortable around you, and then you're able to take them under your wing, and you're like, you talk to them and you're like, what are your aspirations? What are your goals? What do you want out of life? And they're like, well, I really like this thing, or, I really like robotics, but, my family doesn't have the money for that, or I don't have time, I have to take care of my siblings. And then so you talk to them and you help them form a plan of how they can pursue that, and how they can go to college, how they can make more opportunities for themselves. And even if it's not what you do for a career, I think even if it's just one person that you mentor or you take under your wing, that is what your passion is, and that's where you realize how much you want to help these kids. Like maybe you'll be an academic advisor or something, and or a therapist or a counselor, but I really get the sense that you're doing it because you recognize yourself in these kids. You recognize the younger version of yourself in them, and you think, if I hadn't gotten out of where I was, I would have ended up going down a really negative path. And you see these kids and you just get this overwhelming urge of, I need to help them, I need to talk to them, I need them to know that there's somebody on their side that wants to push them to do better, because there's not a lot of people in their life that would. And so the next part that I see here, you have the abundance card and the justice card. And to me, this is showing that not only do you want to help change the mindsets of these kids or these younger individuals, but you also want to help them learn how they can provide for themselves in a good way. Now I'm going to speak on something, and keep in mind, I didn't grow up in any of these kinds of environments, so if I say things that sound wrong, it's coming from a good place. I'm not trying to make any judgments or anything, but I've heard stories about people that grow up in bad neighborhoods where there's a lot of gang violence, and how a lot of time kids that grow up in those environments, they think, if I can't go the traditional route, I can't afford college, the schools around me aren't very good, there's not a lot of opportunities. In order to make money, in order to provide for my family, I'm looking at these gang members around me driving these BMWs, having a ton of money, or, selling drugs or things like that, and they're making a ton of money. So if I go into that, I can provide for my family. I can have something better than where I am right here. And I feel like the reason that they fall to that is not only because they're looking up to these kids, but because that's kind of the only way out. That's the only way that they can make enough money to support themselves, support their family, or have better than where they started. Like, that's the only option for them. That's the only option that they see. And I feel like something that you want to show them is, actually, there are other options. There are other options, and, maybe it'll be harder. It won't be as easy as, joining a gang, which, like I said, only seen what I've seen online or what I've heard from other people. This is not the culture that I grew up in, so sorry if it sounds wrong. But I feel like you want to show them that, hey, there's this other way of doing things. And yeah, it'll be difficult. Yeah, it'll take time. Yeah, you're going to have to really work on yourself and work extremely hard on this. And maybe your friends are going to be clowning on you because they're not going to understand. They're going to be like, why aren't you hanging out with us? Why are you over there doing all this schoolwork? But you want to to take their face in your hands and say, there is a better direction for you. There is a direction where not only can you have financial abundance, but you can do so in a way that you're not going to end up in jail. You're not going to end up dead. You're not going to end up addicted to drugs or anything like that. There is a way that you can live a good life and have a better life for yourself, for your family, for your future family. And that's where I get this justice card, because the justice card is all about balance. But I was reading this book the other day about the tarot, and it says that specifically the justice card doesn't have a blindfold on because it requires you to recognize your circumstances and recognize where you want to go and what needs to be done in order to achieve this balance. And it requires you helping these kids make that decision for yourself, that this is something that you want to do, that you are going to actively take a role in doing this and push away the things that are not going to take you in the right direction. And with the sword that the justice card holds, it also speaks to taking action, how important it is for them to keep making good decision after good decision. Because there will be a lot of temptation, there will be a lot of people that want to make them relapse or fall into bad habits or end up in jail, and it requires them making decision after decision that I want to stay on this better path. I want to stay on this better path that is going to keep me out of jail. It's going to keep me out of these bad neighborhoods, and it's going to allow me to actually make something of myself. That's where I think your passion lies. And like I said, it could be a career for you, something that you go into like counseling or there's this book. I actually don't know if I have it on my shelf right now. It's called something like Dear Sugar. Amazing book. It's about this woman that people write in and they're like, Dear Sugar, blah, 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 this is my problem. And then she gives them advice, and honestly, such an amazing book. Like every single one made me cry. But this woman who goes under the pseudonym Sugar, she has had multiple jobs over the years where eventually she became a writer. But one of her jobs was being an academic advisor to this group of girls who they were in this kind of situation where their only options were, I'm sure you can use your imagination. There wasn't a lot of good options for girls that came from the kinds of neighborhoods that they came from. And there were some that fell into bad habits. There were some that didn't get out, but there were also some where, for them, their biggest success was, like, one of the girls ended up being a manager at Taco Bell. And to us, or to some people, maybe that's like, well, not to me, I think that it's extremely hard for some people, but some people might look at that and say, oh, you're just a manager at Taco Bell, like, that's nothing. But to them, that's an amazing success and way further than anybody like them could have gotten. And it was monumental to them, but she said that it was because of that woman being by her side, telling her of the other options and guiding her through and being there for her when nobody else was, that she was able to actually make something of herself. And like I said, she doesn't have a ton of money in the world. She's making like slightly better than minimum wage, but that's still a lot better than where she could have ended up. And she was able to take care of herself. And so that's the kind of passion that I see for you. You know, I wasn't expecting anything like that to come through. Honestly, I was expecting, let me do this reading and it's gonna be light and fun and like we're gonna talk about like, oh, what are you passionate about? Oh yeah, video games. But no, this is like, oh, but you know, I really do see this being the thing that gives your life meaning. And there's nothing in the world more rewarding than knowing that you had this kind of monumental impact on not just one person's life, but their family. If you teach one person to fish, like the old saying goes, like teach him, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but teach a man to fish, he'll eat for the rest of his life. Not only are you teaching this person to take care of themselves, but they're also then going to be able to go on to help their family, to teach their children how to live better, how to have more than they had, how to not go down these wrong paths. And it's all because of you. You know, even if you were just that one school counselor that encouraged them to do a little bit, like in that book that I was telling you about, which I highly recommend you read. You know, she was only in these girls' lives for maybe a year or two. Like, I don't know if she stayed with them their entire life, but it was because of what she taught them. It was because of how she uplifted them in that short time that they went on to go and change their lives for the better, their entire life. And sometimes that's all people need, especially kids. You know, in those formative years, all it takes is one person encouraging them and believing in them to really make them decide to do better for themselves. And it's hard, but it's, you know, if they have nobody around them supporting them, that's when they're going to fall into certain vices or fall into certain behavior patterns that lead them down the wrong path. And sometimes they just need one person to reach out and say, I see you and I want to help you. And I feel like that is what you're going to be extremely passionate about. And like I said, even if it's just one person, it's the kind of purpose and passion that can fuel your entire life. So I highly encourage you. And like I said, even if that's not the career path that you're going into, like I said, this could be something that falls into your lap on a day that you're not even expecting it. You just feel this intuitive pull and this connection towards maybe just one person that you're passing by in a coffee shop, and you decide to double back and start up a conversation with them because you have this feeling. And I really encourage you, follow that feeling, because when you feel that tug, when you feel that voice in your head or that feeling in your gut that's like, you need to go reach out to this person, follow it. And you know, maybe they'll brush you off at first, or maybe they won't want to talk, but I think it's worth it. And it's better to at least try and say, you know what, at least I tried, than to just keep walking and not listen to that tug inside of yourself and just feel that ache of like, well, what if? So, pile one, that is what I'll leave you with. This was a bit longer than I was expecting it to be, but I really hope that this message finds the right person, and I highly encourage you, just listen to your intuition, listen to that voice, because it will lead you to beautiful, beautiful things. So, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. Alright, pile 2. If you chose the Crazy Lace Agate, then this is the reading for you. And I want to start off by saying that this reading is going to go pretty different from the other readings. I mean, pile 1 was already quite different than what I was expecting. And I was also expecting, like, I'm going to be the one that helps you figure out what this passion is and points you in the right direction. But I think the person that is going to be figuring out exactly what this passion is you. I don't think I'm going to be able to give you the answer today. But what I will give you is a point in the right direction of how to figure it out. Because, and if this is your first time at my channel, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So, I think it was like over a year ago now, I was very lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I was going through some really hard things. I was like taking a gap year off of college, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it was actually through a YouTube tarot reading that was about my future that it told me what my life in 3 years was going to be like. And it talked about a career that I loved. It talked about something that I was passionate about. It talked about a career that was also my hobby. It talked about having to talk to others. It talked about content creation. It talked about spirituality. And all of a sudden it clicked in my head, and I was like, oh my God, tarot reading. This is something that I could do. Like, I could actually do that if I really put my mind to it. But the reason that I bring that up is because when I was around that time and I really just didn't know what I wanted to do, it was actually this card, the golden egg, that came out. And this card talks about retreating in to ourselves, listening to our heart, listening to our inner voice, and really meditating on it, not to try to use our brain to seek out the answer, but just finding a place of quiet until our heart speaks to us and speaks to us about what it wants you to pursue. And I think that's what it's asking you to do. Because what I see here is you have isolation and the Page of Cups. And isolation is pretty self-explanatory. In order to find what this passion is, in order to find out what direction your heart wants you to go in, what direction spirit wants you to go in, you're gonna need some time alone. Some time to really retreat in on yourself, to stop listening to the voices of people telling you what you're supposed to be doing with your life or what career options are available, and just shut out all the noise. You know, if you can, get away, grab a tent and go on a camping trip and just sit in silence in nature, in whatever way that you can. Maybe for you, this looks like just going to your local park and sitting under a tree for an hour out of the day, if that's all that you have, and just sitting in silence and listening to your heart. And what I see with this Page of Cups is this is very interesting to me, because it involves speaking to somebody that can't necessarily speak back. And for some reason in my mind, I got the word familiar came to mind. So if you have a pet, for some reason a cat is coming to mind, or if you have a dog, or even if it's just a fish, like in the Page of Cups, this guy's talking to a fish. I encourage you, just sit down and talk to that animal as though it was another person. because you can learn a lot about yourself when you talk aloud, even if you're just talking aloud to yourself. But I feel like you talking to an animal, especially one that you love or like is close to you, just sitting and like on the couch talking to your cat about like all your issues. You know it's not going to burden them because what they hear is wah 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 wah. But it can be really cathartic for you, and I also think that will help you come to a conclusion about, I don't know, maybe when the words are flowing out of your mouth, all of a sudden you just say the right thing and you're like, what was that? Like, and then it just, all of a sudden you just have this flow of information coming to you. So I really think sitting in isolation, meditating, just allowing your brain to be quiet. There was this meditation practice that I heard about when I was listening to this podcast, and it's this practice of just sitting and not trying to clear your mind actively, just letting all thoughts come to you, letting them flow through, and as they come through, observing them and just letting them pass on, letting your brain reason through all of the information that it wants to. And eventually your brain will come to a point where there's no more thoughts to come forward. And that is when your mind is perfectly empty. And I think when your mind is perfectly empty, you can have some amazing intuitive information and downloads come to you. And that's when you're really going to be able to listen to your heart, is because your mind and the noise and the day-to-day hustle and bustle is completely gone. Your mind is completely devoid of any noise except for your own heart. So I highly encourage you to try that. I highly encourage you to, talk to animals, even if, like I said, you're sitting on a bench in a park and you see a bird land next to you, talk to the bird. You might look like a crazy person, but I genuinely think that is what's going to help you find this answer of, I truly think that if you were drawn to this pile, you're feeling a little lost. You don't know what your purpose is, you don't know what your passion is, you don't know where you want to take your life, you don't know what career path you want. And I think instead of looking to other people for answers, and maybe that's why I'm getting this specific reading for you, is like you weren't supposed to come to me for the right answer. You're supposed to go within to find the right answer. And I think this is also something that might come out of healing for you. Like, I don't know if you're about to go through something, or if you just went through like some sort of breakup, or there's some sort of pain in your heart, or maybe the pain in your heart isn't related to another person. It's related to you and feeling lost, like I said, feeling like for me, when I was giving you that example of me. Like over a year ago, I was not feeling great. I constantly felt judgment on me. I constantly felt pressure from all directions of like, well, what are you going to do next? What's your career going to be? What direction are you going to go in? Even though that wasn't necessarily what people were actively saying, it's pressure that I felt put on myself. And every day it felt like there was this huge weight on me. Every day when I would go to sleep, I felt this weight on me, like figure out what you want, figure out what direction you want to go in. And I truly feel like that can be a heartbreak in and of itself, because you're putting so much pressure on yourself. You feel so much pressure from all these other directions. And I think what's going to help you out of that is, as you're healing, as you're figuring out what you want, as soon as it clicks, like for me, all it took was that one tarot reading. I mean, it took like a few months. It took 6 months until I saw that tarot reading. But it took a lot of time of trying different things. With my personal journey, I thought I was interested in plants because I like plants. And I was like, okay, what if I get into botany? What if I go to school for that? What if I get into like agriculture? For a while, I was seeing a lot of TikToks of people being cowboys in Montana, and I was like, well, maybe I'll go work on a ranch. Maybe I'll move out to Wyoming or something. There was times where I was interested in, investing. I got really into day trading for a while. I was thinking about like real estate investments, like Airbnb and stuff like that, which obviously is way far off in the future if I ever do that. But I was going through all these different things and trying and applying myself. I think there was a day where I drove to every single nursery in my city and applied to all of them. Nobody was hiring. I just felt so down. And the information just comes out of nowhere. I was just sitting, playing Call of Duty, feeling sorry about myself, not sure what direction I wanted to go in, listening to this tarot reading, and that's when it clicked. And I know, I think the channel's actually really close to hitting 500 subscribers, which is amazing. Like, I know it's taking time, but I've fallen so in love with this practice that even if it takes time, I'm willing to work part-time or full-time as long as I get to keep doing this. And eventually, if this pays off and this becomes my full-time job, I'd be ecstatic. But it's something that whatever comes to mind for you. Even if it seems far off or it seems impossible or you're like, oh, but that'll take forever to do. You just need to put one foot in front of the other. You need to listen to your heart, listen to your intuition. Something that really helped me is learning as much as possible, learning on YouTube. For instance, with this, I was learning, what's the best equipment? How do I make videos? Like studying other tarot channels, like how can I do that? But eventually you get to a point where, and I heard this really interesting thing from Chloe Taylor, who's also a tarot reader on here, who said, if you're learning, you're not doing. And so I just threw myself into it 100%. I said, okay, this is my schedule. I'm sticking to it. And I have stuck to that schedule of making 2 to 3 videos every single week, non-stop, for like years straight. I think the only time I'm going to get a break is in May. I'm going on a family vacation to the Philippines for like 2 weeks. But even though I'm going to have a break of 2 weeks where I'm not doing anything, I'm still going to be making videos ahead of time to have them schedule post while I'm out there. Like, this is something I'm so dedicated to. Even though some people would look at that and like, how are you having faith in this? And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, it's not even about faith. It's about doing something that I love and knowing that I'm not going to give up on it. And it may take years. I mean, the thing about entrepreneurship, if you decide to become an entrepreneur, is it's not easy. It's not an overnight success. And it's actually so much easier to just do a 9-to-5. It's so much easier to just give up. But if you have something that you really care about, something you really want to see come to fruition, you have to be disciplined. You have to be willing to put in the work. And I truly see you coming to this point with the magic card where there's just this explosion of energy once that information finally hits you, once that idea finally hits you, and all of a sudden you feel like that is what I want to go after. This is the thing I want to go after. That's when everything just explodes. And all of a sudden it's like, I want to put all my energy into that. And it'll be easy for a little bit because now you have a clear focus of what you want to do. But there will also be moments where there feels like mountains of things that you need to get through, mountains that you need to climb in order to get there. Like, all of a sudden it's so far away, there's all this information, all these things that I need to do. Bite it off in bite-sized chunks and know that every business that you see around, for the most part, aside from the ones that are created by like Nepo babies, all of those businesses started as an idea. And it took a lot of hard work for a lot of people to get to where they wanted to go. And whatever idea that comes to you, I encourage you, read those books, listen to those stories. They will help fuel you. They will help you feel driven in order to accomplish what you want to pursue. And so finally, I want to end your reading by reading from the guidebook because, like I said, this golden egg card that you got in the middle is actually the card that I got at the beginning of my journey. And so I think reading it directly to you will be really encouraging to you. So this one is called the Golden Egg, Message at the Center of the Heart, the Unstruck Sound. Within the golden egg lives a precious sound. Deep within that sound resides a message. The sound cannot be heard, nor the message discerned, until we retreat from the noise of modern-day life. The magical essence of the golden egg needs warmth, quiet, and time to unfold. No rushing, pushing, or grasping. That part's important, because the mind wants to take control of things, it wants to grab it, but you just need to let it come out itself. Like a flower, you can't force the petals open, you need to let it unfurl itself, and it will in time. Nurture it, nurture yourself. Just like a flower, you'd give it water and sunshine. Like yourself, give yourself what you need. Take time to yourself, take care of yourself, and that flower within you will unfurl. Like I was saying, where did I go? Find a place of deep and restful ease, perhaps through yoga or meditation. If you do not yet have a meditation practice, take some time for introspection or contemplation. When the mind begins to settle and the breath is calm, ask the question that weighs heaviest on your heart, staying open to any response you hear. Engaging with the energy of the golden egg is an advanced practice. It requires becoming intimate with our very essence and comfortable with vulnerability. When a feeling of tenderness or gratitude arises from deep within you, know that you are well on your way. Your chest may swell like you're seeing an old friend that's been away for a long, long time. Listen to the message they've been waiting to tell you. And it says the golden egg, this card has to do with the 4th chakra, which I believe is the heart chakra. This chakra, called Anahata, is the home of the self or soul. By bringing the mind into the center, we discover a portal to the most intimate and luminous space. It is said our inner guide sits there in deep meditation waiting for us. Anahata translates to the unstruck sound. So, pile 2, that is where I'll leave you. Like I said, I deeply resonate with your own story. If this resonated with you, you and me are very similar. And I don't want this to be a self-plug, but I do have a podcast where I actually talk about, I think the first episode is like, what is this all about and who am I? Honestly, it's just kind of something that I do for fun. Whenever I feel inspiration, I ramble about it, but it helped me a lot on my journey to hear what others had went through to get to where they were, and specifically for me, listening to other tarot readers, specifically Chloe Taylor. She also has a podcast. It's called, it used to be called Divine Authenticity, but now it's called the Cozy Babes Club, and I don't know what you want to do with your life. If you want to be a tarot reader, I encourage you. Listen to other tarot readers, listen to my podcast, listen to her podcast. I don't know of any other tarot readers that have podcasts, but I'm sure that they do. But if it's not me, I encourage, or if it's not doing this, I encourage you. Find podcasts of those that have done what you want to do. Find movies or stories, because those will help you find your own path. And you don't need to exactly follow in their footsteps, but you can see the destination that they got to and you can say, okay, how do I want to get there? And that's what I encourage you to do. I promise you, if you follow your heart, if you listen to this voice within you and follow what it wants to do, there's a beautiful path laid out for you. You are meant for so much, but you have to be willing to put one step in front of the other. That is what is required of you. It's just taking that action. So, pile 2, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. All right, pile 3, last but certainly not least. I'm gonna call you out a little bit, and if that's not something that you enjoy, then feel free to click off now. But the thing about my readings is I'm always going to give you 100% truth. I'm not going to hold anything back from you, especially if I feel like that's the message that you need to hear. And the message that you need to hear is you already know what you're passionate about. You are just ashamed of it. You don't want to show it to other people because maybe you think they'll judge you. Maybe they'll think it's weird. I'm just getting a very closeted vibe from you, even if you're not necessarily closeted like your sexuality is closeted. I get the sense that you're just putting on a front and a facade for other people of like I'm getting this image in my mind of this guy that pretends that he loves dirt biking, because dirt biking is like pretty masculine, I guess. And he's like, yeah, I love dirt biking and camping and going out and doing that stuff. But then when he's home alone, I'm imagining him in this like pink tutu, and all he wants to do is learn ballet. And it's like he has this possibility to be the best ballet dancer in the world. And even though in my mind I'm picturing like a really like bulky buff dude with a hairy chest and stuff like that, it doesn't quite make sense in my head. But I'm imagining he has so much potential and so much passion that he could put in so much work and become the best dancer in the world and be putting on performances in like Carnegie Hall in New York and stuff like that. But because he's so afraid, he's pushing it down, he's suppressing it. He only allows himself to dance in his bedroom. And I don't know if you've ever done ballet, but I haven't done it since I was really little, but I imagine that it needs a lot more space than just a bedroom. And if he's just always pretending like, oh yeah, let's go dirt biking on the weekend, all his spare time is being used up going out on the weekend away from what he truly loves. And like for you, maybe you're really passionate about singing, or maybe you're really passionate about theater, but you're just so embarrassed of like, well, I don't want them to hear me sing, or I don't want them to see me perform. So it's like you only go out and do it at night when nobody sees, or you only allow yourself to do what you love online under a fake username with no profile picture, and you're sheltering the part of yourself that you love the most. And when you do that, you're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable. You're not allowing those around you to love you to their fullest potential. And I want you to ask yourself, what are you most afraid of? Are you afraid that the people around you are going to reject you and hate you or belittle you and laugh at you? Because if they are, those are not people that truly love you. If they truly love you and support you, they will see how much this thing lights you up and they will want to support you. And if people don't support you, why are you prioritizing them over your own self? Why are you prioritizing these other people's lives over your own life? You only have one life, and if you get to the end of your life and you look back on it, are you going to say, I lived my life to the fullest potential, or I lived for everybody else around me? You don't want to live for everybody around you. You have this like bird in a cage that wants to sing, it wants to be free, and you keep it locked up. And for what? So that other people won't laugh? It's sad to me. And with the starfish, I see this when I look at the starfish, I'm seeing this animal that has so much potential, but it just keeps itself pressed up against a rock, suctioned there in this tiny little tide pool, and it's not allowing itself to get out. And you have this whole ocean that you could explore. And I know that starfish are actually supposed to be in tide pools, but like for this analogy, let's just imagine that they're keeping themselves there because they're afraid of the rest of the ocean. There's so much to be explored, and even if the people around you won't accept it, even if they do belittle you and make fun of you, there is an ocean full of other creatures that would accept you. It's like you're looking at your little hometown and you're like, well, if they all make fun of me and laugh at me, then I have no one. Okay, that's a small hometown compared to the billions of people in the world. And something that I always think about is if you ever feel like you're alone or you are different from everybody in the world, just remember how big this world is and how there's probably like 1 million people that look just like you and probably 10 million people that would love to do exactly what you do. I mean, really think, for instance, about what you're passionate about. Like if it's ballet, for instance, it's not like you're the only person in the world that loves ballet. Or if you're a dude, you're not the only dude in the world that loves ballet. Like there's a lot of really good male ballet dancers. And they probably got a bunch of shit from their friends. And maybe their uncle looks at them a little weird, is like, you sure this is what you're into, buddy? And it's like, who cares what they say? And I know it's easier said than done, because I personally have dealt with my own fears of judgment or like what will people think, but at the end of the day, it's no way to live, keeping yourself in a cage. And what I'm seeing here, you have the Surrender card and the Knight of Cups reversed. When I look at this Knight of Cups, you see how he's just on the edge of crossing this river. And with it reversed, I see you've always held yourself back from fully going across it, fully allowing yourself to indulge in what you love. You're doing so because you're afraid of vulnerability. You're afraid of showing the world and those around you that this is who I am. This is me, 100%, naked in all my glory. But with the Surrender card, what you need in order to follow your passion, in order to follow your purpose, in order to be happy, you need to allow yourself to be vulnerable. And the thing about secrets is when you first reveal them, you literally feel naked. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a big secret and then once it's revealed, you get this feeling of vulnerability, even if you're alone, even if you're in your own bedroom, you just feel like you're being thought of. You just feel like there's people watching you. Because you don't realize just how much those secrets are an actual wall dividing you between you and someone else. Like, for me, I'm a lesbian. And I'm like 21. Like these days it's a lot more prevalent, a lot more people talk about it, but I first came out in like middle school and it wasn't exactly like a huge trend where everybody was just coming out. You know, these days there's a lot more people coming out, but when I first came out, gay marriage was still illegal. And thankfully I have a very accepting family. Everybody in my family has accepted me. I'm in a great relationship now, but when I first came out, I was so scared. I couldn't even get the words to come out. I opened the notes app on my iPhone, my like iPhone 4 or something, or whenever it was. And I just typed in the words, I'm gay, and then I just handed it to my mom and I looked away. Like I couldn't even look at her. That's how ashamed I was. And of course she didn't care. But I feel like that's the kind of secret that you're holding. And, you know, maybe you're not gay. Maybe it's something else, like ballet or something. But you're so scared that you don't want to reveal it. But would you rather live a lie? I mean, I look at myself and it's like, would I rather have never come out and just force myself to live a lie, never met somebody that I could fall in love with, and never fully be open with my friends, never, you know, when they joke, if they were to joke around with me, I would always feel a little bit of detachment. Like they don't truly know who I am. They don't know what I truly love. They don't know what I truly care about because they don't know me. And because I was able to be vulnerable, I'm able to be so much closer to all my relationships, and I'm able to actually pursue what I love. And yeah, there's going to be people out there that look at us sideways, look at me and my girlfriend sideways and are like, what the hell? Or like want to cover their kids' eyes, like, don't look at that. And yeah, that shit hurts, but I also know that I'm so much better off living life open and free. That it could be so much worse if I was just hiding myself or laughing along and making fun with my friends of like other people that were out and like, ha, could never be me. Like, don't let yourself live that way. Allow yourself to be open. Allow yourself to explore. There's a whole ocean open to you, and you're just keeping yourself secluded. Like, I'm imagining in a tide pool, being so secluded from the rest of the ocean that you're like barely getting nutrients, barely getting what you need. But it's like, okay, at least I'm safe here. You're not safe. You're comfortable. And so what I'll say is, whatever you care about, whatever you're passionate about, you deserve to be able to pursue it. You were given that desire for a reason. It's because you will be at your fullest potential. You will burn your brightest when you are in alignment with it, when you're allowing yourself to pursue it. And I guarantee you, everybody out there has some weird niche interest that they don't want to tell other people about. Like, there are people out there that, and there are people out there that do tell people, and then they're called weird, but they have their own groups. They're like, yeah, okay, you think I'm weird? Well, I have my own friend group that also likes this weird thing, and we're just gonna be weird together. And maybe you were, I don't know, really popular in high school, or maybe you were the golden child in your family, and you can't imagine what life would be like if you were to fall from that state of grace. But would you rather live a lie? I mean, the reason that I keep bringing this up to you is because you have the Two of Pentacles card, and this is truly about weighing your options. It's your decision whether you continue to live in darkness or whether you speak up and are vulnerable and live in the light. It's your decision. I'm not making the decision for you. I'm not forcing you to, come out or talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. But you need to ask yourself, which life is more worth living, and what are you going to be comfortable living? Because it's up to you. If it feels like it's putting your life in danger, I'm of course not going to tell you like if you were coming out as gay. I mean, there are parents that have kicked out their kids for being gay. There are kids that have been relentlessly bullied to the point of getting killed or committing suicide. Like, it's no joke, especially if you're living in the middle of nowhere. But really weigh your options and ask yourself what you care most about. And really, really take a look at those around yourself and ask yourself, is it just my fear that makes me feel like they won't accept me? Or are they actually not going to accept me? Because like me personally, if I had really sat down and thought about it and looked at like my parents and my family around me, I know that they would have accepted me. But it's like I just had this feeling of, they call it internalized homophobia. And it's just this feeling of when the entire world is homophobic, even if you yourself are not homophobic, you have this internalized feeling of shame. Even if you know that people around you will accept you, it's so internalized that a part of you really doubts it. And I feel like it could be the same with you and whatever you're going through. Really ask yourself, do I actually think this person would reject me? Do I actually feel like they wouldn't accept me or that they would laugh at me or hate me? Really take a bare look at things and not just come from a place of fear. Because I think that'll help you make this decision. Because if you really look at it and you're like, you know what, I'm being silly, like this person's not going to care that much, it'll be a lot easier to get it off your chest. But if you feel like it's safer or better for you to wait 5-10 years or until you're moved out on your own, then do what you need to do. Do it at your own pace. And it's your decision what you decide to do. But I promise you, with this mystery card, I'm just getting a sense that things are going to be a lot better and brighter than you ever could have imagined. And you're only letting yourself think of the negatives and like what could happen if, everybody reacts negatively. What could have happened if everybody reacts positively? Like, allow yourself to think about things from the entire point of view. So, pile 3, that is what I'll leave you with. I truly wish you the best on this journey. And remember, nobody can force you to, make this decision for yourself. It's all about you. You do it when you're most comfortable. But allow yourself to at least entertain the possibility of doing it. And not just completely shutting it down. Because you deserve to live openly and pursue what you love. So, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.